everyone. Thank you for tuning into this presentation. I'm here with my colleague Danielle Montecalvo. My name is Ellen Wong. I am in EPA's Office of Radiation and Indoor Air in the Radiation Protection Division in the Center for Radiation Information and Outreach. And today we're here to talk about EPA's radiological emergency response capabilities and how EPA can support tribes. And I'll turn it over to Danielle to introduce herself.
Thanks so much, Ellen. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle, and I'm a physical scientist also within the Office of Radiation Indoor Air Radiation Protection Division, and I work in the Center for Radiological Emergency Management. And Ellen and I are both tribal coordinators for the Office of Radiation and Indoor Air, so we are here today to talk a little bit about how radiological emergency response capabilities from EPA can support tribes for preparedness purposes and also in the event of an incident. Next slide, please. Okay. So EPA's committed to protecting human health and the environment, our mission, through emergency preparedness and response. To give a better understanding of how tribes can better prepare for radiological emergencies, as well as how EPA can support tribes, we are going to show the broader landscape of radiological emergency preparedness and response. Many agencies and different levels of government are involved, from the federal level, tribal level, state, and local levels. Responses always, though, start and end at the local level. So it's important to note that resources from the different levels of government can be called upon request by the locals. And it's always important, too, in the context of the federal government and the tribal government, that will always be a government-to-government partnership. General support that EPA can provide, so some of the areas that we can help tribes in the event of an emergency or for preparedness purposes, can one, be in the preparedness space, talking through trainings and exercises. Those are areas that can be used. And then looking at emergency response resources in the event of an incident can be things such as protective action guidelines and data collection and analysis and monitoring and assessment. Now we're going to transition in how to talk about some of the ways that EPA's authorities give us the jurisdiction to work in this space. So EPA is designated to fulfill certain roles in the following national emergency response plans. So we're going to highlight two of them for your awareness. The first one being the National Oil and Hazardous Substance Pollution Contingency Plan, or otherwise known as NCP. This gives EPA the authority to respond to oil spills and hazardous substances releases, such as radioactive materials, in the United States and its territories. The second one is the National Response Framework, and within that there are different annexes, and one that we'd like to highlight is the Nuclear Radiological Incident Annex, which outlines EPA's mission space during a radiological or nuclear emergency. Talks about where and how EPA can get involved and is the lead for different types of incidents resulting and from radiological or nuclear materials.
All right, so now we'll transition into talking about what EPA resources are available to support tribes engaged in radiological emergency response preparation. There are many different situations that could result in an emergency involving radioactive materials, and some of them are pictured here. You can see there's a space launch, a transportation accident, or a nuclear detonation. And it's always good to remind yourself that these incidents could happen in any location. It's not necessarily in places close to like a nuclear power plant necessarily. And so it's good to be prepared and have the relationships put in place already to help with the response once it's needed. So we put together this brochure that goes over all types of support that EPA can provide for radiation protection. And this encompasses emergency response, which is circled in red there, along with long-term cleanup and radiation found in nature. And so you can see on this brochure, there's resources about what EPA can provide and contacts and other links that you should know on the back. But since we're focusing on emergency response this time, we wanted to highlight the contact for reporting an emergency, which is the National Response Center, where you can see the URL as well as the phone number there. And they're the ones who will pull in the experts that are needed for your situation in case you need, radiation experts. And all this information can also be found on a website that we put together that goes over all the same information, and the URL is, and you can also scan the QR code there. It has all the same information, and it also has the brochure for you to print out if you need it. And yeah, this is a great resource for you to reference in the case that you need emergency response preparedness help or response help. We'll go into more depth about some of the resources later on.
Great. And so now to dive in a little bit deeper into EPA's radiation protection program. These are some action photos of some of our colleagues doing some of the work out in the field or during exercises that we'd like to highlight. The top left and the bottom left show EPA personnel out in the field setting up a radiation air monitor. The middle photo shows one of the most recent space launches that we had down in Florida, and EPA's role in radiation response for space launches, for instance, involve the safety evaluation and also contingency planning in the event that there's an inadvertent reentry or if there's an accident on the launch pad. So this is one of our colleagues that helped support that mission, and that was there on site. The top right photo shows EPA Headquarters Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, and you can see that it's fully staffed in that point of time, and there's lots of folks sitting in different roles that would be serving in the roles for the Incident Command System structure designated by FEMA. And then the bottom right photo shows one of our public information officers during an exercise working with folks, and just shows, again, a lot of the ways that we engage and practice and train for in the event that there is an emergency and that we can be able to respond and work with our partners.
And so EPA's radiation protection program has this special team called the Radiological Emergency Response Team, or RERT. It's comprised of radiation professionals across the country, all within the Office of Radiation and Indoor Air. So Danielle and I are in the Radiation Protection Division located in Washington, D.C. You can see listed there. And some other groups include the National Analytical Radiation Environmental Laboratory, or NAREL, which is located in Montgomery, Alabama. There's also the National Center for Radiation Field Operations, or NCRFO, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we'll go into both of those in more detail later on. The RERT also is comprised of staff across EPA's 10 regions, typically within the regional air and Superfund divisions. And so there's always somebody closer to you to talk to if you need support or just more information.
Dive in a little bit deeper into the RERT that Ellen highlighted in the previous slide to talk about who is on the RERT and what their backgrounds consist of. We have different scientists, engineers, health physicists, communication experts, and laboratory and field staff, to just name a few. So there's folks with all different types of expertise that serve as members of the RERT. And our primary mission is to support federal government as well as tribes, state and local government response efforts during all stages of a radiological response. So again, that involves preparedness like today, and that also includes during an incident.
Going into some more details about the RERT capabilities, EPA is the coordinating federal agency responsible for a domestic response to a foreign radiological or nuclear incident. So in situations like Fukushima, EPA was the lead agency responsible for the domestic response to that incident. And so the RERT played a large role in that response. EPA also conducts routine radiation monitoring, and this is done at our lab in Montgomery, Alabama, NAREL. They do routine near real-time radiation monitoring with their RadNet system, which is 140 monitors across the country. And they also conduct routine sampling and analysis. And so this is definitely a good resource if you want to know more about, routine radiation, and also a good resource to check into in the case of an incident to see what radiation levels are like in your area. Another resource is that EPA provides emergency field monitoring. And so in the case of a radiological emergency, there could be extra field monitoring to help you out. This would be coming out of the National Center for Radiation Field Operations, or NCRFO. Some other resources they can provide are technical consultations, and they also provide field sampling and monitoring, team support, and the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center, or TAMS, is also located at the NCRFO Las Vegas, Nevada location. And they also do equipment loading, as many of you may know. Another resource is that EPA is the chair of the Advisory Team for Environment, Food, and Health. And Danielle will go into more detail about that in the next slide.
Thanks, Ellen. So to dive in a little bit deeper on the Advisory Team for Environment, Food, and Health, similar to the RERT for the EPA, the advisory team is comprised of folks with various expertise, such as scientists, communication experts, and so on and so forth. Though we have representation from not only EPA, from also the Food and Drug Administration, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And as Ellen mentioned, the EPA is the chair of this group currently, and we have a website we have a page on this on EPA's website that you can see on the right side of the screen there. And something that's important to note, you can look at more resources and learn more about the advisory team on that web page. But something to take with you, when there's not an incident occurring, the advisory team can be contacted to support in exercises or answer questions related to radiological protective actions. And if there is an incident occurring, the advisory team can be activated by calling the EPA's Emergency Operations Center, and that is all located on the website if you would like to learn more. Then also diving in a little bit deeper into some of the ways we also work with different levels of government, but now on the international level, two organizations that we primarily work with are the International Atomic Energy Agency and the Nuclear Energy Agency. And both of these groups are international organizations that have many different member states from across the globe to work together to promote the safe, secure, and peaceful use of nuclear energy. For the IAEA, there are the convention exercises, which help with notification and assistance during an incident. And so there's ways that we practice that mechanism. And then for communications and the mission to Fukushima, those show how our communications team that Ellen is on, for instance, have helped and worked closely with IAEA subject matter experts to enhance crisis communication. And then for the mission to Fukushima, our science team in the Radiation Protection Division has also worked closely with subject matter experts at the IAEA to coordinate. And one of the ways that they did this was during the Fukushima incident in 2011. Then moving to the Nuclear Energy Agency, there's a variety of working groups and committees that EPA employees sit on and represent at the international level. And something that's really cool and something we'd like to highlight is the exercise series through the Nuclear Energy Agency, otherwise known as the International Nuclear Emergency Exercise Series. We just conducted the most recent one in the series back in March of this year, and we did have a tribe participate in that. And so we're hoping moving forward that we're going to continue to engage you all and engage tribes across the country to participate in all the different events and different working groups and different exercises we have, so that we can, again, coordinate and learn from one another and make sure that there's a seat at the table for everyone to engage.
Another great resource is the communication resources for emergency that are online, ready to use right now that you can access. And these are great for preparedness. Just getting to know these materials before an incident is very important. And they're also great for a response. And so communication is a very important phase of the response. It can save a lot of people, protect a lot of people if there is a serious incident. And these resources include videos, infographics, and prescripted messaging. So the videos go through, all of these three things actually go through different phases of a response: immediate protective actions, decontamination, sheltering, all type, education about radiation, just all types of information that people may need to know. And the prescripted messaging is especially useful for crafting messages about how to protect yourself, so you don't have to, have those messages developing during an incident, but have them ready to go. And so that's definitely something good to be familiar with. All right, and with that, thank you so much for listening to our presentation. We'd like to highlight these two contacts in Region 9, Ryder Freed and Peter Guria. They are great resources to reach out to if you have a question or want to be more involved in radiological emergency response preparedness. Please reach out to them. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.